I mean, I don't know either. Hello! Hello! Hello, friends and Faye, and those who have yet to decide, and welcome to Hoard of Tales. Thank you so much for joining us for this game of Vaesen, which is part of the incredible Women in Gaming month long event. My name is Fiona, I use she, her pronouns, and I have the incredible honour and privilege of being this game master for this one shot and this incredible cast of folks. Now, before I ask our wonderful cast to introduce themselves, let me tell you a bit more about Vaesen and what the stream is about at the top of the session. So, Vaesen is a horror mystery tabletop role playing game which draws inspiration from mythology and folklore with a focus on monster hunting. All three great things, I think. It's based on the work of the Swedish illustrator and author Johan Egerkrans, and Vaesen is published by Free League back in 1920. In 2020, that's where my brain is going today. Anyone who's seen me GM before knows I'm a massive fan of Free League products in general, all their different games, and Vaesen is no exception. I'm delighted I get to run this game for this incredible group and for you all this evening. If you are enjoying this game and want to try out Vaesen for yourself, we'll drop a link in the chat to where you can get it. And of course, a massive thank you to Free League for sponsoring not only the stream, but the full Women in Gaming month happening right here on Hoard of Tales. Excellent. Now, before we go in, with that in mind, I just want to just do a quick content warning at the top of the stream. Now, the world of Vaesen is set at the turn of the 19th century, and this is a time where many countries underwent radical transformations, changed by industrialization, war, revolutions, as well as new ways of thinking and understanding spreading out through universities. The old world of folklore, tradition, and superstition was being questioned by this new world, and conflicts which arise from this sort of butting of heads, so to speak, comes in many different forms, both the mundane, but also the supernatural. As always with campaigns here at Hoards of Tales, the cast and I have had our session 0. We've gone over our lines and veils, and we have our safety tools in effect. However, as always, I just want to take a moment to say to you, the watchers, the lurkers, the redcaps, the pixies, and the pukas that are out there watching us play this game, I just want to give you full permission to keep yourself safe and take a break from the stream, from watching our story should you need it, because as always, you are more important than the rolls on the table. Finally, this scenario that we are using for this particular one-shot is called the Hampstead Group. This is from the Mythic Britain and Ireland sourcebook, and so I would ask those who have run or played through this game just to be a bit mindful and not to put spoilers in the chat and keep the secrets until after the stream, because I can't describe to you if you do put spoilers in this chat. Well, I can't guarantee your safety from our Bogot mod, even. Whilst its tricks are never deadly, it would be a real shame for all your nice crockery to be overturned and your favourite stool to be broken, wouldn't it? Anyway, let's go clockwise from myself. I'm going to ask our wonderful cast to introduce themselves, give us their name, pronouns if they would like to share them, and I do have an icebreaker as always, and the icebreaker is, what is your favourite creature from folklore and myth? So, going from clockwise for myself, I believe we've got Melissa. Please take it away.
Hi, I'm Alicia, aka Art Rogue Mel, aka Huntress. My favorite mythical Pegasus. I think that was the Pegasus when I was a kid. I was
Nice.
in love with the flying horse.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Uh, it was something I drew a lot. Well, I tried to draw a lot. Um, I think it's majestic. It's just a
Yeah.
majestic thing. You come down flying.
Yeah, you've really
Uh,
made an entrance with the
yes,
Pegasus, right?
yes. When you when you come down with a Pegasus,
Yeah, you're
you
not playing
make an
around. You're like,
you
oh,
make
Melissa's
an
arrived, I
entrance.
guess. How are we going to top that?
Exactly.
Exactly. Next up, I have Sakaya, please.
Hello, I'm Sakaya. I go by she, her, and I think. Well, I mentioned to Fiona just before we came on that I tend to cry during most streams, so I think I have a kinship to the banshee because who
Ooh,
doesn't like a good wailing woman? I think.
absolutely. Yes,
Exactly.
yes. Well, oh, fingers crossed. They don't turn up here. Quick, get rid of the notes. We don't want people crying on my streams. I don't make people cry on purpose, I promise.
Oh
Next up,
no.
last but by no means least, Taylor. Taylor, introduce yourselves for us, please.
Hi, I'm Taylor Felicity. I use she, her pronouns. I'm online pretty much every role for Felicity. My favorites, I like to I like to think global, act local. So my favorite mythological or folklore creature is one from Ohio, which is where I live. And it's called the Loveland Frogman.
Okay,
And
what?
it is
Okay.
the Loveland Frogman is a big frog
Hmm.
like the size like I think he's like 3 or 4 feet tall. And has only been cited a few times, but when he is cited is always holding a a stick that is either glowing or it's some kind of wand.
Right.
And so all the images of are like a big frog holding a stick.
That's
And I
such a
just love
mood.
that.
Yeah. Like tag yourself. I'm the frog man.
And the
Absolutely.
frog.
And of course, it would be remiss of me not to go myself. So my favourite sort of folklore creature. Now, obviously, I'm very blessed in the fact that obviously I've got these wonderful books and can give me stuff. But I am a massive fan of something called the Nook Larvae, which is basically like it looks like a very cool horse from afar, and then you turn around, it's got one eye in the centre of its face like a cyclops. Terrifying, and I love it. And I would definitely not be going anywhere near that. Don't go riding that horse. It does not want to be ridden.
See, good. That's a good thing to say because you said horse, and I'm like, ooh.
Yeah, I was going to say, no, no,
And
Lisa,
I'm like,
no. Stick to your Pegasus, honestly.
ah,
Well, what a fine bunch of Thursday's children we have with us this evening. Now, before we start our story, I'm going to quickly talk about the main game mechanic that you're going to see coming up in Vaesen. So, when one of our characters wants to do something where there's a tiny, tiny bit of risk, I'm going to ask them to describe what they're doing, and then I'm going to ask them for a role that combines one of their attributes and a related skill. By adding the levels together, that means they're going to have a dice pool of d6s to roll. And this means, in most situations, if they roll at least 1 6, they succeed on the task at question. Really simple, dead straightforward. But as always, success is not always guaranteed. And if they don't have any successes in the pool, well, they can always, push the roll. It's one of my favorite mechanics in any free league game. Is that you can push the roll by grabbing any dice that doesn't show a success, i.e. a 6, and re-roll them. But this is not without risk, however, because pushing a roll means our characters will gain a condition, either a physical or a mental one. And very importantly, this does not come into effect till after they've done their roll. And they get to choose what condition it is, depending on what the roll is, whether it's a mental or a physical one. Conditions will subtract 1 dice from their pool when making checks in future. And the most important thing is conditions do stack. So if they get 2 conditions, that's going to be -2. 3 conditions, -3. And don't get too many conditions is the big thing here, because if you do, then your character can become in a state of brokenness. You cannot perform any further actions, and they may also sustain a critical injury. Now, the last thing to note is Vaesen prides itself on being a horror mystery game first, rather than a horror survival or combat game. Though we may see a bit of combat this evening, the focus is trying to work out what the conflict is between the old world and the new, and how do we resolve it in a way that doesn't necessarily lead to violence. That's it. All the admin is out of the way. My wonderful investigators, my Thursday's children, are we ready to play a game of Vaesen?
yes, let's get detecting.
Let's get detecting. Let's get straight into it. So, let me find my prologue. So, amongst those attracted to Hampstead's fine houses and pleasant views are a group is a growing number of artists and other creative types. Newford House is home to one such colony, whose activities and lifestyle scandalize their older neighbours and fascinate the younger ones. At the heart of the Hampstead group, as they and their adherents call themselves, is a wealthy, mysterious woman, Catherine or Kitty Danville, who became the owner of Newford House after the death of her banker husband a few years ago. She immediately set about transforming the luxurious house from a symbol of her husband's status into a vibrant artist colony. In addition to the artists, the writers, and musicians who call New Ford House home, creator types from across London and further afield come for Kitty's saloon evenings and week-long festivals. It is even whispered amongst her followers that she numbers Oscar Wilde amongst her discarded lovers, and was the reason that he forswore women for the rest of his life. Kitty, of course, refuses to comment. So, we see an incredibly busy London stepping out of the smog and the mists of the early morning. We follow a young postal clerk making their rounds. There you can see they're sort of handing off various items, various letters, various parcels, getting to the end of their bag and pulling out one single crisp letter that is addressed to the members of the society at Rose House. The person sort of sighs a little bit, sort of mops their brow, and proceeds down a street. Various streets that look very old. These buildings, certainly in this part of London, have are almost sort of the buildings themselves are sort of built into various stonework along sort of Tower Hill and around Tower Bridge area. Eventually, the postal clerk sort of comes and knocks smartly on a door, and in the door itself there is a stained glass window with a single rose sort of etched in of it. The door opens, and a sort of older gentleman with sort of the insignia of Rose House, sort of alongside. This is Hawkins, which all three of you would know is the sort of a bit of the furniture, I think, is the term we use here. It is a the servant, or sort of like the sort of main butler of Rose House, and has, whenever you arrived, whether it was recently or far, far in the past, he's always been a part of this place. He looks to the postal clerk, gets a single sort of like hand comes out with beautiful sort of monogrammed gloves, picks it up. The postal clerk sort of looks quite sheepishly. Hawkins rolls his eyes, goes and like pops a shilling or two into the postal clerk's hand, indicating that this never happened. And the door shuts. The letter is placed on a silver plate, and it starts making its way down the halls itself. Past one of the rooms, we see our first child, one of our investigators. Let's go for Sakaya. Sakaya, can you introduce who your character is? What are they doing at this point in time? Very early in the morning, I'd say before 9. What do they look like?
So, Sally Hargreaves is dressed a little bit sort of masculine, just sort of a necktie, a nice sort of crisp white shirt, probably like a sort of Victorian version of a pencil skirt. She's been up very early. She's been sorting out things for Ms. Blythe, collecting stuff that she's had to get ready the day before, like rehealing a shoe or ironing some shirts of hers. But she's now sort of like taking a few minutes to herself. She's got her own cup of tea. And she's just sort of like kicking back for 5 minutes before the day really starts.
What kind of tea is Sally drinking?
She probably has a very sort of like robust, strong black kind of tea. Nothing too flowery for Sally.
No, this strong sort of aroma of maybe Assam sort of fills the air.
Definitely.
And it's enough to wake anyone up, maybe any from the dead as well. And you're sort of like getting into it, and you see Hawkins pass, and sort of he looks to you and he sort of gives you a nod and continues along the corridor. Hawkins himself, again, the way Rose House is, it goes deeper into this, basically a part of the wall of London, and you can see that he comes across this very beautiful sort of like staircase that goes up, 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 and up. No windows looking out at this point. He sort of goes very carefully, saying good morning to Mrs. Morley, the housekeeper, who comes in daily to clean. Well, not very much, really. You three are the only people that live at Rose House currently. There used to be lots more of you, but unfortunately, due to, accidents happening, certainly the other order in Sweden about 10 years ago sort of disappeared, other people have started to sort of break apart. Other orders have started to uh, disband, essentially. But this one is still going. There's still life here, and Mrs. Morley always comes to clean the rooms no matter what. She still gets paid for the same amount of work, whether it's 10 minutes, whether it's an hour, but she comes here and enjoys it. So we pass her on the stairs. Hawking's still going up, 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 and as we go up, we see another individual in a room as the sort of letter passes them. Taylor, can you describe your character for us, please?
Yes, Biddy Blythe is probably a little bit on the taller side, not super tall, like 5'7" maybe. She has dark brown hair that is kind of just in a pile on top of her head. There's lots of flyaways, and she's kind of brushing her hair out of the way. She's dressed more informally, just obviously still Victorian style, but she's wearing like these big bloomers because they're easier to like get around and
Yeah,
do
probably
all
have
the running
pockets in as
around that
well.
she
Yeah.
needs to do. Yes, with pockets. Um, and has kind of a maybe I don't know if severe is the right word, but has kind of a severe face with very dark eyebrows, very piercing eyes, and a very upturned nose.
Mhm.
And is currently typing away on this typewriter that is like huge. um, it's so big because it's like an early typewriter. They're like
Yeah.
so tall. And is like typing away, working on something, and like as she's like pushing her hair out of the way, getting like,
Mm.
typewriter ink on her face. And
Mhm.
also probably can't for the life of her get coffee anywhere, so is drinking just the most caffeinated black tea that she can find that is definitely oversteeped. She lets it steep for a long
Oh no! How could you say that? Oh, a true horror. No, end the
the
stream right
scariest
now.
thing.
Oh no.
Oh, what are you writing about, Bitty?
Yeah, I think I'm working on my column, because I do have a
Mhm.
weekly column and a weekly paper.
Mhm.
And some kind of Vaesen, I'm sure. I'm not
Mhm.
sure exactly which one it would be, but some like, rumors are being swirled about this,
Mm.
creature that's been found in this neighborhood and like what's going on with it.
Yeah,
So very
maybe.
sensationalist, but true.
Yeah, you're sort of going mermaids in the Thames. What? Question
Yes,
mark?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, 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 exactly.
And then maybe
A
some
cr-
because you have a camera as well, don't you? So maybe there are some very
yes.
blurry cameras where if you sort of squint at it a little bit, it does look like a bit of rubbish perhaps, but it's like, look, that's a tail, clearly. Very
Yeah.
Loch Ness
All
monster
of
esque.
all of my headlines are questions.
Yeah, questions and like explanations. This is in the time as well of like when the broadsheets are really big, but like obviously the headlines are even bigger, so it just takes up half the space. Yeah, absolutely.
Mhm.
You'd also see next to you as well. There are like you have lots of printed ones of your previous columns, and that yeah, you felt had an impact as well. But you've also maybe have a stack of paper next to you of rejections. You whilst you do sort of contribute to Wonder Weekly News, you maybe have tried to branch out elsewhere since you are kind of here for the time being whilst at Rose House. I will say as well, you often feel a bit like Hawkins as he sort of passes, look at you with narrowed eyes, and you do get a sense that you shouldn't be typing about your exploits at Rose House because it is supposed to be, whilst it's not, it's more like an open secret, but obviously membership is currently closed. So you're like, you don't want to bring attention to your exploits, but you continue away again, a lot of noise, like it does often feel like some sort of bowling ball has been sort of hit from one end to another. Hawkins goes up and carries up all along to the attic space where he knows that Miss Constance is where her office is. He sort of knocks on the door and waits to be given permission to enter. Melissa, can you tell us about your character? What do they look like, and what are they doing at this moment in time?
Well, Joan Constance, she's 5'7", salt and peppered hair, in her 50s. There's a little scar around her left eye. She's a little bit battle worn. She's been there, done that. And she's sitting in her office, getting ready to like do her morning.
Hmm.
stretching and exercising. She believes that you got to stay ready
Yeah,
all the time.
your sort of calisthenics, but they're
Yeah,
a bit more violent. You sort of like whip out like a sword randomly from your cane or something like that.
yeah. Just you're yeah. So he's knocking on the door and he's just hearing like a whoosh, whoosh in the office, and I'm like, oh, oh, enter.
There's a definitely a pause because I like the idea that Constance doesn't necessarily stop her exercises. So he's been caught off guard once before with like a being hit or like the something being closely to him as he opens the door. So he takes a moment before opening the door. He goes, um, the morning correspondence, ma'am. And sort of comes and puts it on a desk. Can you describe Joe Constance's desk for me, please? What does it look like in this morning?
It's it's organized chaos. That's
Excellent.
what you should call it. An organized chaos. There's papers, notepads, all over the place
Hmm.
with little trinkets and her tools, trying to figure out what these stuff is, where they
Hmm.
belong,
Hmm.
old clues, books from the library. It's an organized chaos.
Yeah. It takes a moment to sort of look and try to find a place where you will actually find the letter to read it when you finish your calisthenics. And eventually he sort of just props it up against like maybe you've got some books or something like that, props it up. Um, Immediately, though, Joe, you do recognize the writing on the sort of the handwriting of this. You think it is your goddaughter, Amelia Beddoes, has written to you, and she's not written in some time. Hawkins sort of says attention and goes, "Will you be joining us for luncheon, ma'am?"
Yes, I would like some the strong black tea, please, and I'll be there in a second. Like she like whips the sword aside, not very much organized, like I said, just and
Yeah,
then
he does flinch ever so slightly.
and then
He goes, "Very
grabs the
well, ma'am."
paper, grabs her little towelette, and wipes her face, and I'll be right down. Starts reading the
Very
letter.
well, ma'am. And he goes and he shuts the door behind him to give you some privacy. The letter itself is beautifully written. You remember Amelia being quite gifted in her handwriting ability, but it's been some years since you've spoken to her properly, and whether that's because of something that happened or maybe you just lost touch with her family, but you're always quite fond of Amelia. You remember sort of a girl, sort of long brownish hair that was always done up in a ponytail. She was always very interested in reading, dreams to become a novelist, etc. And you get the following letter, which once I've finished reading it, I'll make sure everyone can see it as well, so you're not having to remember one person's interpretation of a letter.
Yep.
So, my dear godmother, I hope you can forgive my presumption in writing to you after so long without much contact between us. I offer no excuse for my lapse in correspondence, though I hope you will look kindly upon my explanation, which follows directly, and upon my plea for your help. I ask not for myself, but for my wayward brother, Martin, who, as you know, has driven our parents to the brink of despair since he resolved to abandon his family and business for the laissez faire life of a poet. Long have we worried that he would come to a bad end, and now I fear, though I pray I am mistaken, that the worst has come to pass. It has been more than 2 months since anyone in the family heard from my brother. Though his letters were invariably requests for money, they did at least confirm that he was still alive. With mother and father being kept at home by ill health and the concerns of the business, it fell to me to travel to London and search for him, starting at the last address which he asked money to be sent to. To make a long story short, I came at last to New Ford House at Gladstone Place in the borough of Hampstead. It's an artistic colony, and you can see like there's like quotation marks around artistic. It's filled with people with the most peculiar and disturbing sort. Although I admit I have become quite well acquainted with this type of person in the course of my search, although it's little sense that would be had from those people living there, most of whom were clearly under the influence of drink and, well, worse. I did learn that Martin had been there, but it had not been seen for some time. Depending on whom I asked, this was between either 1 week or 3 weeks ago. No one could say where he went. After a few minutes, a tall lady came down the stairs to find out who I was and what I wanted. A visible change came over the others, who had been filled with crass jokes and improper invitations, but swiftly put an air of deference. I gathered that her name was Kitty, and that she was the leader of this questionable community. I must confess that she frightened me. By contrast to her subjects, I can call them such, for they fawned and they cringed like sycophants. She stood tall and straight, and there was something in her eyes that frightened me, though I cannot say precisely what it was. This Kitty received me with courtesy and offered me tea as she heard my questions, though I felt that she learned more from me than I of her, without asking anything. She repeated the tale told to me by the others that Martin, whom she called a dear boy, which unsettled me rather accountably, had resided here briefly before moving on to an unknown destination. Her community was open to all, she explained, and it was common for visitors to appear unannounced, stay as long as they cared, and leave without notice. Her words were quite reasonable and perfectly in keeping with what I had already heard, but they rang false to me. I know Martin, and given a place to stay and compose, especially with such company and such a lack of financial obligation that he had not been obliged to beg for the family for money, I know that nothing would induce him to leave. I know myself, too, and I know that I can get no further with this Kitty woman. Therefore, I beg you, by the love you bear our family, to help us find Martin, or find out what has become of him. I enclose a photo of him, not a recent one, regretfully, but sufficient for you or maybe another to recognize him by, and I will wait anxiously for any news. Your loving Amelia. And there is a photo of a very young man. Again, you vaguely remember when you went to the sort of christening. There was sort of a slightly older boy who sort of was a bit of a devilishly handsome boy, devil may care. You could tell he would get into right trouble when he grew up. Was always had a nose in a book, so to speak. This would have been about 15 years ago, maybe even 20 years ago. So would have definitely been in his 30s now.
All right. I will quickly pen down a letter that I got. Her letter. I read it, and I will do as she asked. Help her out. I will, get my team together, and we will go out. Just short, sweet, and you know, tell her to keep safe, take care of her parents, and then practice her sword swordsmanship. And
Yeah,
then
you sort of start to remember why you maybe haven't been invited to a couple of birthdays because parents weren't necessarily happy with the gift of swordsmanship lessons. But
yeah, I believe everyone should be able to defend themselves.
I think the words "unladylike" came across
Ah, yes,
quite a lot
yeah,
in the letters. But you have a sneaking suspicion that Amelia kept them up, whether in secret or away from the prying eyes of others.
indeed. She's a smart little girl.
Mhm, mhm. So, as you sort of finish your calisthenics and finish writing a letter that you would probably pass to Hawkins, I want to just go back down to Sally and Bitty, if that's all right. Again, assuming that Sally would come up to Bitty, being one that would assist her in such things. So I'll leave it to you guys.
Yeah. Sally finishes her tea, heads up, steps into the room, and can see that Bitty is typing away. And Sally sort of raises her eyes to the ceiling. She takes a couple of hair clips out from the back of her skirt, sort of walks straight over, licks her thumb, starts sort of pressing her hair back and pinning it down. She's like,
Yeah.
"You are, I assume, intending to go out into society where people exist," and just sort of starts fussing over her.
I allow myself to be fussed over, but I pull out one of the papers from the from the typewriter, put it in like a pile with like what I've just written, and kind of still looking ahead because I imagine Sally's behind me. Say, Sally, would you take a look at these? Look it over. Let me know if you see any kind of discrepancies, typos, etc., and just hand this like pile of papers of what I've just written, hot off the presses.
Mermaids in the Thames. Oh, Miss Blythe, I really wish you wouldn't mention me by name in these things.
Oh, you know how it is. I forget once I get going. I've got all of these and I like have like a list of like pseudonyms that I'm supposed to be using
Yeah, there's
for
lots of
all of
crossed
this.
out ones. Have they been exposed halfway through? Yes, yes, yes.
Why
I
does that
say it's
mermaid
just
look?
it's
Sorry.
so hard for me to say something that's not strictly the truth. So as soon as I have to use, other names and things, I just get mixed up. But that's why I have you as an editor.
Well, yes, okay, I'll go through this. And you, finish your tea. It's stone cold.
I just drink the rest.
Oh,
So,
there's no role for drinking steep tea, but my word, I would invent one at this point. Oh, I think all the British people that are watching this are going, "Ugh," as a result. So yeah,
Just cold tea.
breakfast, brunch, luncheon is served. It is a very weird time in Rose House because obviously you are the only members of the society that is there. So no matter what time of day you feel a bit peckish, there is always food downstairs, usually laid out as a sort of a buffet, so you can come and help yourselves. Again, there is hot tea, coffee, but what Bitty would consider coffee is definitely not whatever this is. It's not strong enough. It's definitely a bit weaker, perhaps. Um, and it definitely is. It's grinded up beans for sure, but you were like, it's not the same. You know, it's clearly been
It's not a
grinded up.
cup of joe.
No, you know what? It's been grinded up maybe several days ago rather than straight this morning. It's not great. But you all, I will say, for the sake of expediency, you've all made it down to the place. You'll have your various foods and meals. Presumably, Sally has served Bitty and maybe Joe a little bit beforehand. Again, yeah, would you eat with them, Sally, or would you sort of wait for them to? Because you are a member of this thing. You're not household staff here.
I am. I think I would eat with them,
I mean,
yes. I think,
I would tell her
yeah.
to, I would tell her they can.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like,
Miss
where are you
Constance
going?
would insist.
Yeah, you cringe a little bit every time because you're like, okay. maybe
Hawkins
you
gives me
sit.
a look, you know.
Yeah, maybe you always try and sit further apart from them, even though there's a long table. Two of them sit at one end, you sit further down. But you're encouraged quite a lot, Sally, to come and sit closer and closer till
Yeah.
you are sat with them.
Yeah. Do you have an egg, Sally? I've heard of this new thing called protein, and I think you could really use it.
I don't have time for protein, Miss Blythe.
Should always make time for protein. You need
Are you okay,
strong.
Miss Constance? You look a little bit
You need strong
distracted.
muscles. Yes.
So yeah, with the letter still on your mind, Constance, you sort of run down the details about how you know Amelia and this sort of worrisome message from her about her missing brother Martin Beddoes.
Yes. So we're gonna go investigate this because I told my goddaughter that we're gonna find him, or at least we'll make an attempt. 'Cause I don't make promises I can't keep. And then she looks very she looks like longingly away in the dark for a second, like a memory of
Mm.
something gone awry. And then she's like, yeah, yeah. We're at least making them to find what happened if something ever happened to her brother. So we need to chop it up and get going as we have the day light still in our
Hmm.
favor.
Hmm. And normally, what happens when you're part of the society is that you've been on a couple of missions before. Now, obviously, I'll leave the success or failures of that in the past. That's not the scope of the story. But you have all been on missions before, and normally, what happens when you get given sort of missive like this, they're actually much further afield. The last couple of times, maybe you've been to Scotland, maybe down towards Bournemouth, but this time it's right on your own doorstep. Hampstead is not that far away, but that doesn't mean that you should go in unprepared. So now I invite you, my wonderful investigators, to do something called preparing for an advantage. And so what this means is that I'm going to give you like not an action, but basically you can do like a little montage or something for the morning bit before you would travel towards Hampstead in the afternoon. And it's not a roll or anything like that. We're sort of slimming it down a little bit for this particular bit. But I want you to describe something that you would do in order to find out something that will help you later on. And if you use, and that is called an advantage. And if you say, for example, maybe it's more calisthenics, maybe you're more fighting with swords or something like that. So I'm very practiced with this sort of swordsmanship. That means if you decide to use that later on, you get a +2 to that particular dice roll. Go, oh well, I'm going to use my advantage now, and it's a way to justify like you being prepared. Now, it doesn't have to be something that's combat related. It could be something that is I want to do some research on this kitty person, or maybe Hampstead in general. Is there any locations that we could go to, or buy equipment, etc.? So just have a think about what your character would do in the sort of lead up to going to this place to investigate the disappearance of Martin Beddoes. And again, it could be, like I said, it could be about Kitty, this person themselves, the colony, the area, maybe even the Beddoes themselves, for example. You don't have to limit it to just the artist colony. So, what would our team be doing to prepare for this mission?
I'll go first. Joan will ask Hawkins to find someone who can gather information about Kitty and the colony for him, like someone who's been there, someone who's spent time in the colony. See if there's anyone that he can scruff up from the area, so she
Uh,
can ask quick questions about.
Yeah, Hawkins sort of obviously understands and probably goes and calls about some of the irregulars, some of the children that run amok and sort of give news out and sort of puts the word out, and eventually comes traipsing in various children of all sizes who come to come for a hot meal, but also to tell you their tales of what they know.
Mm,
And I will say you sift through some absolute what I would call gunk. I mean, you always feed them. If they come
yeah.
with some story, it's fine. But what you do get is that about Kitty themselves, Kitty and their partner Edmund Danville moved to Newford House about 6 years ago, and then Edmund himself had passed about 2 years ago. Um, it, they came from Scotland, it sounded like, but that's all the sort of information you've got. And then since Edmund's death, the place itself, Newford House, had been turned into this colony at the sort of request of Kitty. So they'd been there for quite some time. Um, to get sort of more recent news on gossip, you might need to go and talk to, say, maybe neighbors or people in the sort of businesses around there. One of the kids sort of comes and talks that there is like and I'm sure you have it wherever you live, but there's local sort of newspaper rags. Obviously, that Bitty writes for one, for sort of a more, shall we say, more esoteric one than say like regional or even like
Yes, yes.
district news. But you know that the Hampstead Gazette is also a place that is nearby that you could probably find, if you're able to find any sort of newsworthy stories about the colony, that could be a place there as well. So you get your sort of advantage from like this knowledge of like general stuff about the thing. You got a +2 on any checks related to that.
Stage +2 checks. Investigation.
Yeah, it'll be related to that information that
Okay,
you've got. Yeah.
related to, yeah.
So if you're using that information and you say, "Oh, I'm going to use that advantage, and this is why," and justify it to me, then I'll let you do it. But I'm quite easy on these things as well. I want you guys to succeed. What about our other two investigators? What are you guys thinking?
You know what Sally's doing?
So I thought what Sally might do whilst Joan has sort of like put feelers out, she's going to use this time she sat down at the table for maybe 2 minutes, and whilst they're telling her that she should be eating this, that, and the other, she actually hasn't touched her breakfast. So she grabs a slice of toast and she walks off, munching the toast. And I'm going to make my way to these households have sort of agencies where they may hire in the help and that kind of thing, and using contacts and people that she knows, seeing if she can get a lowdown on people that work in that house, and looking maybe for possibly for manipulation roles later down the line. But what's the gossip?
What's the actual tea, you mean?
Yeah, what's the tea? Basically, this is and it's not a strong Assam, I'm hoping.
No, it is not. It's weak at best. So this is interesting. Actually, as you sort of talk to people, you really struggle to find anyone who actually works in the Newford house at all. You think after sort of a quick talking around all your sort of networks and stuff, you take some time with this. Any servants that were there were let go roughly about 2 years ago.
Very interesting.
But what I'd say is that for your advantage there, so yeah, still +2. It's similar to what Joe has found out. So it's you get the same sort of thing, but the additional thing is that servers have been let go. But I'd say that what Joe has found out, you've also got. So if you have any checks related to that same information, you can use the +2 on that as well. You don't get anything different, unfortunately, but you still get that. And what about Bitty?
Feel free to tell me if this isn't what you were thinking of, but I kind of feel like I'd like to use my talent for this, since I feel like getting as much information at the start before we even leave is the time to do this.
Absolutely.
So my talent is automatic writing. When channeling spirits through automatic writing, you can use inspiration to gain clues. The game master provides more or less vague clues, predictions about the futures, or momentary insights into the thoughts and experiences of my enemies. Extra successes reveal more clues. On a failure, the game master decides whether I suffer a condition or undergo a personality change that lasts for 1d6 hours. And I can use it once per session, so maybe just starting off with it.
Let's do it then. Yes, and we'll say with that sort of personality change, we are going to discuss that. We're not, I'm not going to enforce that particular because A, it's a one shot, and B, I don't think that's very nice. But yes.
So I
how do you
think
prepare
if
for
it's
this? Yeah.
Yeah, I go back up to my room after breakfast. I think I pack away a few hard-boiled eggs because I see that Sally leaves with just some toast, and I'm like, that's not gonna last you the day. So I tuck away some hard-boiled eggs in my pockets, still with the shell on. They still have the shell on, so it's fine to put them in your pocket. And go up to my room and back to this big monstrous typewriter. And I close the door because I think I don't really like. I know this looks kooky, so I don't really like other people to see it because I'm a serious journalist. And I just kind of close my eyes and let my fingers rest on the typewriter keys and just kind of try to almost meditative state, like just empty my mind of thoughts and just kind of open myself up to whatever spirits happen to be around. And I think what I'm trying to figure out more specifically is is the supernatural involved with this? Like, because all that we know is just like, oh yeah, someone's gone missing, which is like not usually what we investigate. So getting some insight into kind of the supernatural aspect of whatever's happening, if there is one.
Absolutely.
Because Biddy wouldn't know. I suspect it would be odd.
You if a letter has come to certainly Joe, who has this sort of reputation, and certainly come to Rose's house, then it's like a last resort, that sort of thing, that they're desperate. But it's always good to check these things, right? Because you never know, you kind of want to know what you're walking into. And artists themselves, they're definitely possessed by something, even if it's not the supernatural, right? So for this, we're going to do our first roll of the game because you're using your talent. So this is an empathy inspiration check. So you take your levels in empathy and take your levels in inspiration, and then you roll those as d6s and let me know what how many successes you win, because the number of successes means the more clues you get for this particular talent.
I get to roll a whole chunk of d6s because this is my thing.
Nice.
And I got one success.
Now. you can
It can
always
go up from here.
yeah, you will get some information, absolutely. But
Yeah.
how much more information would you like, Bitty? You can always push the roll. So what that would mean is that I would give you a condition. This would be a mental condition because you're sort of tapping into your sort of your feelings about it and trying to suss things out. You can choose what condition it is after the roll, and you can re-roll all the dice that don't show a 6. But that is up to you. I'm not going to push you for it, but
Oh,
that
I'm
is
gonna
it.
push this.
Oh, oh, oh no. Wait,
Oh, that was hard.
No, it must have been
Sorry,
that bad.
I was trying to decide which condition I was gonna take.
Oh, my bad.
Here she
Well,
comes
before,
with the sugar candy
well, hang on.
temptation.
Before you roll, what condition are you
Yeah.
thinking of? Because with these sort of conditions, you've got mental ones. You've got
Yeah.
angry, frightened, hopeless, or and broken is obviously if you get more than that. So which
Yeah.
one are you thinking just now?
I think probably frightened because I imagine the information I'm going to
Mm,
get is that it's going to be something supernatural. So I don't think angry or hopeless makes sense
yeah,
like right at the start.
yeah.
Let's
No, I think that's
take
good.
a little time.
All right. So mark that after you finish this roll, then.
All right. Okay, I did get one more 6.
It's always the way, isn't it?
Worth it. Worth it.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, but you didn't get any failures, so you don't go through any sort of things. You sort of sit there and you're sort of thinking, and you I mean, even anything. Maybe Joe passed you the picture of Martin, and so you sort of and Joe's always been sort of. I wouldn't again. Don't wish to speak for Joe per se, but it's always been encouraging of you and wanting you to use your. It was impressed by you. I think that's what we
Yes,
talked about. That's what
very
she said.
much encouraging of her using those talents because she
Yeah.
believes
Like
that.
maybe Joe's like drinking like some orange juice and then is just slipping over the picture and it's like looking at this, looking upstairs, look back to you, like eyes everywhere. You put your hands on the keys
Yeah.
and you're looking at this picture. You close your eyes and you start to type, like again that sort of automatic writing stuff. And it's the clack of the keys that sound awful. So you've got 2 successes. So I'm going to give you 2 vague clues. So as you are clacking the keys, like doing that, suddenly it's almost as if something takes control and as you are writing, but it's the way that you're writing words, but it's the pauses that you're doing. So it suddenly there'll be like you press a space, and the sort of sound of the key hitting the paper, that sort of horrible metallic sound. It almost like you can almost feel it sort of biting into your skin. Essentially, this is someone who's like with horrible teeth is just gnawing away at you at different parts. When you hit another key, it sort of you feel it in your shoulder. Suddenly, you feel it like in your side, and then the final one you hit it's just on your neck. You just feel a sudden jolt, and you open your eyes. And at the top, you can see the second clue that you've typed out. You have seen. Let me think. What would we type out? I've written out the story of the free Billy Goat's Gruff. The idea you have a small goat that goes over a bridge, a sort of medium-sized goat, and then the big goat that goes over the bridge. But the story has changed at the end of it. This idea that the big goat doesn't go across the bridge. It goes under the bridge and eats the troll underneath that's waiting for it.
I think, yeah, I feel this kind of chill go through me as I read this story of the way that, like, when something is, like, childlike but also creepy, it makes
Yes.
it, like, that much creepier.
Mhm.
And then in a couple places, I think I just reflexively strike through, like, the wrong letter was typed or something like that. Just kind
Mhm.
of getting my mind off of that I'm a little bit freaked out. I fold the paper up and put it in my pocket and resolve that I'll share it with the others once we're en route.
Absolutely, absolutely. So that will mean, like, if you act on that information at all for whatever reason, for both of those things, it's sort of contained in one. You get a +2, and I will say once you've used your advantage, it goes away. Unfortunately, it's not one of those things you can constantly tap for. But yeah, a +2 to a future roll, whichever uses that information. So you finish preparing, all of you. Hawkins takes your missive Joe, and sort of nods that they will post it with the next sort of. It's going to go to town for it. You can see It's weird. You've never seen Hawkins step outside before, but he's got a really long black coat. He pulls out from one of these sort of closets, like it looks almost. I appreciate we're in the sort of 1800s just now, the turn of the 1800s. He pulls out what looks like a frock coat from like the early 1700s. It looks like it's never been used before, and he sort of puts it on, looking very Dracula-like, and sort of a balding head and sort of like frowny eyes. Pulls out a bowler hat, blows off it, pops it on his head, gets an umbrella, opens it. It's not raining outside. He just puts it up, and he sort of nods, and he goes out and he hails a hansom cab for the members, and sort of waves you off with Mrs. Morley as you go as you sort of travel towards Hampstead. Now we move on to the travel portion of this. So I would love for our members of our team to describe a little thing that they see as they move through London towards Hampstead. Hampstead is in North London, and you get away from the sort of the narrow streets that sort of box you in these sort of very high, tall buildings that cram people in together. You sort of go over the River Thames north, and it sort of spreads out a bit. The buildings become obviously a lot richer, a lot nicer, and Hampstead Heath is known, or Hampstead even has a thing called Hampstead Heath, which is a huge park which men and women and people of all genders would go and stroll in it on a wonderful Sunday afternoon. So I would love. Let's start with Sally, if that's okay. Sally, I'd like you to describe a little detail that you see as we sort of move through London to this place. What is it that catches Sally's attention as we move through the city?
I think Sally focuses on because we're moving into a rich area, and there are folks with their very sort of fancy top hats and lovely dresses and taking strolls, probably making their way to the park. She's looking at people like her that serve those people. She's looking at those that are sort of going in through the side doors, or unloading stuff into those little cellar entrances and things like that. And I don't know if it's really a thing that she spots so much, but just noticing this sort of like this other crowd, this other sort of set of people that are kind of like slightly in the shadows, slightly behind the scenes, working away, making all the cogs go, making this whole thing sort of tick over.
You really notice them, Sally, because you are part of that world still. You've almost got like one foot in one world and one foot in the other, thanks to having the site, and obviously helping Miss Blythe out as well, and still finding your feet and trying to work out where you belong, really, like but appreciating the work that these people do to keep things ticking over, but at the same time, the underappreciation still it lands on you a little bit. Like, not that you don't have it here. If anything, you get way too much appreciation for what's going on, and maybe that's unnerving in itself. But seeing other people who do really hard work that don't get noticed, maybe you see like a woman walking their dog. Oh, they would. Well, excuse me, a woman walking and one of their servants walking the dog, and the woman is just throws a piece of rubbish on the ground, not caring for it being picked up or not, and this other person who's wrangling the dog has to pick it up instead. Yeah,
that's exactly it. Yeah, and like you say, Sally's in that. It's a between worlds thing, but it's more like she has this opportunity to kind of step out of like generations of service, but then there's also a part of her that sort of doesn't feel part of the world that she might step into and doesn't really know if she wants to.
What about Miss Blythe? What do you see on your travels towards Hampstead?
Yeah, I think I start off just kind of going over my notes. And I did pull some Oscar Wilde quotes because you mentioned them. So the one that sticks out to me is I never travel without my diary. One should always have something sensational to read on the train. So I think I'm with that in mind kind of going through my notes. But I as I'm going through them, of just like my personal notes and like journal kind of thing,
Mm,
I am frightened, and
mm,
I think I'm on edge being out of the city, looking around to keep an eye out for like any sorts of creatures that would be after me. Especially because I know that there is one. And I
yeah.
think maybe even I hear some like there's like someone, because you said we passed like by a park or something like
Mhm,
that people were
mhm,
like out about, that like I hear some people like playing music, and
mm,
instead of being like, oh, that's nice music, like I jump a little bit and like look over quickly until I see
yeah.
it's just like a normal person and not
Mm,
a creature doing
yeah.
it.
You maybe yeah, you feel nervous and maybe you're you know you're tapping your book a little bit with your pen and you're sort of worrying a little bit. You do feel some comfort, like you feel something sort of lay its head on your knee, and you look, and of course you would be. Where would you be without your little? Well, I don't call them baggage dogs. No, little dog that's in a bag.
Yes.
Remind me what the dog looks like and what's it called, just so we've got it.
Yeah, I think I keep the dog in my bag. I think it's a little white dog. I don't know dog breeds as much, so kind of terrier-esque, but kind of long hair
Hmm.
terrier. And just because I'm still thinking Oscar Wilde, the importance of being earnest and
Hmm.
being found in a bag,
Yeah.
I think the dog's name is Ernest.
Oh my gosh,
Love it.
amazing. Absolutely, yeah. The dog is, if anything, it is emotional support dog for you. Like you're like, I just want to just, it's, I don't think you are a sort of person, Bitty, to be like, oh, well, I look even better with a dog. I think there is a genuine connection there, but the dog definitely
Yes.
lays its head on you and sort of looks up like his big Coke bottle eyes, just to make sure you're okay. So you feel a little bit comforted, but your heart rate still is a little bit high. And that music as well, the sound of the fiddle is very strange and it sort of calls out. But as you look, maybe it wasn't a fiddle, maybe it was like a band instead in one of the bandstands. So you're on the edge still. And Joe, what are you looking at as you sort of making this journey towards
Yeah.
Hampstead?
Uh, I'm I'm very vigilant. I'm looking to see if anything strange standing out while we pass,
Hmm.
keeping an eye out for what does not fit.
Mm.
Uh,
What do you see, Joe? Like again, this isn't me offering you a chance to build something in the
so
world. Like,
I'm seeing at first I'm seeing like the regular people, the people that are from my stature and off and so on. And then because I have I know stuff. I see
mm,
people like the servers, the servants, the people behind them, and then I think I'm noticing like people in the shadows,
mm,
like not fully in the light,
hmm,
but they're not like it's not like they're hiding, but they're not coming out in the you say the brightness of the day.
yes,
And I'm like
and
this, yeah, we should.
yeah. No, I think maybe your sight to you, because each person who gains the sight to be able to see or feel these fey creatures as the creatures of the old world is different for different people. And I think maybe for you, how you've described it there, maybe what you see is sort of almost like echoes or sort of like things that are following certain people.
Yeah,
You don't see loads of them, but you see enough to be like how I always see this, and do correct me, Melissa, if this is not how you see it, but like I almost see them as threads that they attach themselves to a person, and people can have more threads to them if they carry some sort of like want or need that is
yeah,
driving that sort of thing, and having things follow them, and you can see probably all manner of things, maybe
yeah.
like
I want to call it fey baggage.
fey baggage.
Basin, basin. Like they've been through something, or something is literally trying to get them, or
Mm.
uh a sense of dread that they're carrying with them.
Yeah, because it's the thing, because the mundanes don't see these creatures at
Mm-mm.
all, and they affect you in certain ways, and that's what sort of the traditions come from, which you would have done loads of research on even before your time at Rose House. This
Yeah.
idea that you set up like an extra seat at the table and put food there, even though no one will eat it because it's to appease people to help whatever it is that's protecting the farm to give us a better harvest, that sort of thing, or to keep the horses
True.
safe at night. But it's more unusual to have it in the city. But there are still things here, maybe things that have followed people who've made their way to the city. And like I said, you can see all manner of things like tall creatures, some impossibly tall, some small. Again, maybe just phasing in and out slightly. But your focus is on your goddaughter, Amelia, and maybe again holding that picture of Martin in your hand as.
Yes. And may I
Mhm,
say that because I'm sitting next to Biddy, I can feel her anxiety in a way.
mhm. Yeah,
And I just, lay a hand on her and the dog going, oh, it's all
mm,
right.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. So you make it to Hampstead. You arrive upon like a very pleasant, leafy suburb of Hampstead, and you are let out of the Hansom cab. The Hansom cab, the driver sort of moves on. The three of you stood in a very beautiful, like I said, leafy sort of street. You know from a little bit of your research that you have newfound houses at the end of the street, where presumably at some point you will go. But there are other options as well. You have other houses that you could go speak to. Maybe the neighbours, maybe a good start. You also know that from Joan's investigation earlier that there is a newspaper that is printed around here. I mean, the other thing, which maybe all three of you are loath to do, but it is an option, is that if there is a missing person, technically you need to go report it to the police. And
Ugh.
yeah, exactly. Not that you've had any bad run-ins with the police before, but you know that they are useless in the matters of the fae and the supernatural because it just gets missed, it gets slipped, and they're also stubborn.
Yes. I have had running with the police as a private detective, breaking
Hmm.
into stuff. So I'm
Yeah,
very,
they've forgiven you though, I think, Joan.
yes.
So,
Uh,
what would you guys like to do?
I would look at Sally and go, do you think would be a good idea to visit the newspaper? They might know more about Kitty and her ins and out of what's been going on.
I think it's a very good idea, Miss Constance. I don't know if you want us to head off and do different tasks.
I think, Betty, do you have contacts at this newspaper?
Fiona, do you think I have contacts in this paper?
Oh, I'm
Sally,
so glad you asked.
Sally looks at her shoes, kind of. Um,
So, you do know the sort of editor is a strong word. Possibly the only person that writes. If you're the only person that writes for the newspaper, then you're the writer and editor. You
Yeah.
know that this particular one, Hampstead Gazette, is run by none other than Roland Blake, a wiry kind of guy, mid 30s, uh, thinning hair. You seem to remember at the last sort of like I don't know journalist meetup. He is uh, stuck up, I think is the word. You'd like he likes writing about, you know, how nice it is in Hampstead. And he doesn't have time for these silly ghost stories that Bitty keeps every so often sending to him. So you have correspondence with him. You might not know him too well, but you know enough by reputation and name that he is a tricksy character, but more because he's a stubborn man than anything else.
I think I kind of like make this face when when like the newspaper is mentioned, and I say, "I'm familiar with Roland Blake. He really thinks that he's some pumpkins, but I don't really know how useful it will be to us. But um, we could talk to him."
All right. Okay. So let's see. So we have in quotation. She goes contacts in the newspaper. We should check out. You said that they let all of their servants go.
Yeah, so I think I probably filled you in on what I'd discovered on the Handsome Cab Drive,
Okay.
and yes,
Maybe we
there's
should.
been no servants there for about 2 years, so
Uh,
I drew a blank there, I'm afraid.
ah,
The
would
one
be
the one
nice
thing's
if we could find one or two if they can tell us why
well,
they've.
the one thing Sally would know is that whilst yes, there's no servants at the new Ford house per se now, there are servants at all these other houses as well.
Hmm.
So
Oh,
that could be another way in to talk to them, and certainly as well, probably Sally would know this, less so the other two. That servants they have more say what's the nicest word for it, loose lips compared to maybe the home owners, and certainly in a leafy suburb like this where you would know, like, there's an artist colony in a middle upper class place. The neighbors are not happy because it probably brings down house prices as well as other scandals come. So they might be unwilling to talk to you per se, but house staff might be another way in to get information.
all right. Good, good. Should we then split up to get the information quicker? I would say, um, Sally, would you then do the servants because they might talk to you more than if I come in with my millions of questions,
I'm more
and
than happy to talk to the staff of the neighborhood.
and I will go with Betty to the uh, newspaper and see if we can get some type of information from
Hmm.
the quote unquote editor of
Hmm.
what has been going on or any in the artist colony.
Hmm.
And we'll meet back here in an hour, I think, because it's close by, right? It's not really that far.
It's all for plot's sake. It's all in the same street.
The great plot. I love
Yeah,
it.
it's
I
like
love
one
it.
side is the newspaper. All the other sides are houses. There's a couple of shops. The police station is also here as well. But it sounds like I think I might have undersold the police station, but that's cool.
That's all right. We'll still go there because I want to ask if there's been any missing persons.
Mhm.
I could split and go to the police if
All
we'd
right,
like.
cool.
That
That
way we can get each place covered. And
yes.
I'd probably not like to talk to Roland, so
Yeah,
No.
you might go.
that's
You
what I
might get
said. I was
more
gonna
from
go with
him if
you
I'm not
because I
here.
was like, you sound like you and Roland don't have the best of acquaintanceship.
Yeah.
But yeah, just I would let you know what I would want you to ask, or at least what information I would want. If they're missing people from that colony, if there's reports of any strange going ons over there. And then I'm like, tap tap, good job. Like the whole pep talk thing, good job. And then
Yes, and I'll say I have something for you to ask Roland, which is when is he going to actually print something in that paper that's worth the price of the paper?
oof,
Oof,
I
Fighting
will
talk.
I
I
know.
will bring that up at the end of the conversation.
Oh. All right, so the three of you split ways, and I think we'll do one of you before we go to break. Sally, Sally, what are you doing to sort of canvass these houses and try and get more information? I just want to hear you describe this action for me.
Sally wants to take a fairly sort of clandestine route to start with if she can. So the first, rather than sort of just going and knocking on doors, she wants to make her way around the neighborhood and see if she can spot any servants that are out and about and doing their business, and preferably find someone who is involved in a task that she could go and just give them a hand. Oh, that looks a little bit. Let me just take that for you
Hmm.
and get it in.
Sure, I like that. Let's do then. I think this is a logic, and I'm going to say I'm just looking for the skills so I have them to hand. I think this is a logic. I think it's a logic vigilance test because you're looking out for a way to slot yourself into this place.
Well, that is not all the dice, and that is no successes.
No successes.
I'm afraid.
Well,
No.
well,
Could...
Sally, it's a struggle. You can't seem to find anyone. If anything, these servants. It's because the shops are so close by. If anything, the shops send the servants from the shops to go and deliver stuff. It's like this home delivery service. It's brand new, isn't it? But Sally, you do know there is. You can always push the roll.
You and your honeyed words, Fiona. I could push the roll, couldn't I? I
Mhm.
think this would lend me to being a little bit hopeless, perhaps. Um,
Absolutely.
but that does give me one success.
One success. Okie dokie. Uh, so you you spend your time looking at where these houses, where these servants from the shops coming to deliver various fresh vegetables, fresh fruit, and breads and all that sort of thing. You notice that one of the, there's like a small boy who's like got way too many potatoes, and a couple of them fall out, and you sort of manage to pick some up, and you maybe wait a second or two. Maybe you have your own. I like the idea that Sally always just has like a tote bag or some sort of bag on you because you always need one. You have pockets, my friend. You
Oh, yes.
um you put this you know y- you struggle with these places because you know that if you go up and ask directly for information, the doors are going to be shut in your face. So you know it's quite a futile attempt. But with these potatoes in the bag, you see the house it's supposed to go into. You give it a few minutes as the people sort of wander away, and you go and knock on the door, and a bigger woman opens the door, including in some sort of cook's outfit with a big sort of mop sort of cloth cap on her. She says, "Oh, did we? Oh, the extra potatoes. Excellent, excellent. Roast has not been ruined. Thank you very much."
It's my pleasure. Honestly, it's lovely to be back. I was just passing. My sister used to work up on that house there. Is it New Ford House?
Sorry, your sister worked at that place.
Oh yes, a number of years ago now.
Gosh.
Why? What's the
Oh, they have the loudest parties, honestly. Mrs. Upstairs, she has complained and complained, but they won't. None of them will do anything about it. They say it's going to bring down the reputation of Gladstone Place. No
well,
one
that's
has the
outrageous.
no one has the stones to do anything, and it's ever since that woman turned everything into this festival of creativity or something. Nobody will ever do anything. No, we see troops of these young, bright young men going in with their easels and their paints. I've never seen
Oh,
a
artists
single. Oh, pff, artists.
on a street like this.
Oh well, we don't have them here. Gosh, could you imagine? I saw her once, Miss Danville. Quite the lady, very sort of prim proper. But well, they stopped and the missus wanted to have a bit of a nosy about why two people would come down from Scotland of all places, invited her to dinner with her husband. They were halfway through like the main course, and she stood up and said she couldn't bear to be sat there anymore. I mean, I also would not want to be sat next to the Bishop of Southwark myself. He's quite the bore. We've had him over for several Sundays. But she insisted that she'd be moved to a different place instead of being sat next to him. And then eventually she said that she had taken ill and left home. And gone home. I mean, she'd already left home to come here, but you get it's these potatoes.
Well, that is not the breeding one expects, really.
No, no.
She doesn't
Quite
come
the
out much
madam.
then. Mm.
Ah, well, they started declining invitations, and then we stopped sending them. Mrs. was very clear that as soon as Mr. Danville, God bless his soul, passed, we thought that she would maybe remarry and move, and quite the opposite. She has not remarried, and she certainly hasn't moved. If anything, more people have moved in with her. Mm,
It sounds disgraceful. And the
quite.
police don't do anything about the noise?
Oh,
I
you're
laugh back.
serious? No,
No,
yeah,
no.
no, no, no. I mean, every so often, a couple of them get carted off to the station, but they always have like some sob story that they get let out, and God, they steal all sorts. Bicycles, policemen's helmets, the usual. But they always manage to wheedle off, and well, bringing it all down. These artist types.
That's disgraceful. I feel for you. I really do.
Hmm. Hmm. Well, you best be on with you, and well, I hope you can find work around here, miss. There's well, I don't know if I would want to work here. Anywhere near Newfound House, it sort of corrupts things. Things go to rubbish around there. You've seen the state of the street.
Well, many thanks. I'll see where my path takes me.
Hmm? All right, good day to you. And the door shuts.
Hmm.
And as Sally,
Artists.
I know, artists, right? I think that's the moral of the story. Is like artists. Um, We'll take our quick break now, if that's all right, team, because I can see time is ticking on. So thank you so much for being a part of it. Thanks again, once again, to Free League for not only sponsoring this stream, but also the Women in Gaming Month. Please come back with us in about 5 minutes, and we'll continue the story of the Hampstead group. We'll wave awkwardly at the screen until our producer tells us to go away. I did a dance break for 5 minutes. Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Welcome back to our one shot of Vaesen. Hope you're all doing wonderful and well. And again, once again, thank you to Free League for sponsoring the stream. Also, I completely forgot to mention at the top of the stream, we are raising money for a non-profit called Women Supporting Women. Please go check them out. They're in the pinned link at the chat because obviously, we get the privilege of being able to play in these amazing stories and be at some absolutely fantastic tables, and not every woman or every femme presenting person gets a chance to do that. And so this amazing non-profit is able to give that support to places where it needs it. So please, if you are able to, go check out that link, and if you are able to, please donate some money. We would be really appreciative if you can. But away from supporting women and going back to finding out what happened to that rubbish man, let's go to the Gazette. So the newspaper office, Joan, as you sort of sidle up to like one end of the street that we're on in Gladstone Place, you can tell that it's small. And outside the front, it has big sort of letters on it saying, Hampstead Gazette, but they're quite peeling in places. Like it's cared for, but it's old, it's a bit weathered perhaps. Outside there is a massive stack of gazettes, and you can look down, and it looks like they've printed like a fresh bunch of newspapers, maybe about a day or so ago, and people have been reading them. You've probably recognized like the headline as like, Madam Mimsey's dog wins second prize in local dog competition. That sort of, yeah. That's the kind of news that makes the front news of the Hampstead Gazette, So you can see there, and the door is there's like a little open sign, and you can see there's loads of desks and lots of very similar to your own office that you described, this idea of like lots of mountains of paper and typewriters and stuff. But the door, there's a little sign on the door that says "Open." What would you like to do?
I would walk in, like, just wouldn't even knock. Like, prove the chat's open, so
Yeah,
probably just
the door. You go through. You don't knock. You go through doors. It's not
yes.
out of politeness. You're meant to be on the other side of it. That's
Exactly.
your
I'm here to
philosophy.
do a job.
Exactly. You open it with quite forceful, and there's a little noise, like a little bell, like ding, 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 to indicate your arrival. And from the back, you hear, one moment, and you hear the familiar sounds of a typing away, and as the thing goes, done it. All right, and out comes who you believe to be Roland Blake. Again, a man that has uh, wiry is what I described him as, sort of mid-30s, sandy hair, very pale blue eyes, and he's got big glasses on, very stereotypical, like, I'm a bit of a nerd journalist, see? He also has those sort of like a shirt on that has the sleeves sort of like tied to him, like those little bands. You're not entirely sure why. He's not really doing anything, and it looks like he's the only person within this thing. He goes, look, we've already printed our this week's newspapers. I'm sorry, we don't have any time for stories. If you come back next week, we can put it in, like we can do you a bit of a deal in terms of maybe.
Yeah, I kind of cut him off in the middle of the thing. Like, I'm not here for that. Uh,
Oh, oh, wow. Well,
Roland,
if
right? Am I Roland?
yeah,
Yes. Good.
ro-
Good.
mm,
Yes. Okay. So I'm here. I need information, and you are the head editor of this place.
owner, proprietor, editor, first journalist,
All right.
sports,
Good. Good. Good.
funnies.
Well, that means you might be of help, of service.
Sorry. You just walk into my place
Oh
of
yes.
business.
I'm. Well, you should at least know who I am if you work at. You know what? No. That's fine. That's fine. I'm Joan Constance, private detective. You know. You know.
Oh,
Dad Jones Constance. Yes. That
uh,
one. Yes. Yeah.
he does a roll.
Mhm.
Never heard of you.
Oh, that's great. I could see you don't write stuff of substance.
Oh,
Okay, so um yeah, that's fine. I'm here because I need to I'm looking into a missing persons and I would just like to know if you have any background information or any information or stories you want to.
oh, missing persons. That sorry, that's not kind of what we do here. We are supposed to keep it light
Would
and airy.
you let me finish? Thank you. Yes. I would like to just have some information because I'm sure you write about the neighborhood and the people who live in this area, I guess. As you say, fluff pieces, as you call them.
His face properly falls when you say fluff pieces. I think you find it is very important journalism and stories, and that is very important to the locals here. Not fluff. I think you'll find the new sort of botanical gardens that we have put money for as come up, well, really come up, roses and all.
Ah, amazing. Sure. Uh, as I will well, that means you know about the neighborhood. Then you know about the ins and outs
I
of the
do.
importance of what's going on.
Well, I wouldn't. Well, I mean, some would say I have my ear to the ground and my nose in the right pies, and the eyes to the various door key holes. He takes a while to think of his metaphors and synonyms and writes them down to remember them for a future
For his
piece.
future. Says yes, yes. Then you are the right person for the job of helping me out. Then
Hang on. Look, you come in here as a, did you say a detective? And about a
yes.
missing person. This isn't got anything to do with Newford House, does it? 'Cause I ain't touching that place with a barge pole.
Well, I'm not asking you to touch the place or go anywhere near the place. I would just like to know if you wrote any pieces about the place that would give me an insight about the place.
All right. I feel that this is a manipulation check, so empathy manipulation. If it's going to be an opposed role,
Well,
he's not keen to give up his sources, from what you can see. So
and then empathy is how many dice
it,
again?
it,
That's
it should it
one,
should
right?
say in your thing, yeah. It should
Hold
say.
on, hold on. Let me make sure.
Mhm.
Empathy is a one die for empathy. Yes.
Mhm.
And what was the other one?
Manipulation, because you're trying
Manipulation.
to coerce information out of him.
Yeah, I only have like a plus one to that.
Okay, so you're rolling two dice.
Two
Uh,
dice.
he's rolling six dice, but as always with these games,
Wow.
wait. With all these games, I always roll very poorly, but it is an opposed check, so it's whoever gets the most successes wins. Now, this could
Ah,
be something before you do anything. You, you could use your advantage here to a certain extent.
that is true. I'm do looking into the information. Yes, I will. 'Cause two dice and against six is
More. So how do you use your advantage to help you in this moment? This information that you've got.
I relay a little bit of what I have for information. So I call it
Hmm.
like a tit for tat type of situation.
Ooh. So yeah, you maybe sort of slide across that. Maybe you've got your little notepad that you'd written
Yeah.
some stuff on. You slide it off and you flick open the first page, which has talk of like noise complaints, you know, the artists traipsing in, that sort of thing. Or, usual sort of like people being degraded. And he sort of eyes it and looks back at you. So yes, absolutely, you can use your advantage and add +2 to your roll on the +2 dice to your pool. So you are rolling 4d6 now.
Four again. Come on, dice gods. All right, I got one success.
All right, you got one success. Out of the
Mhm.
6 dice I rolled 0 successes.
Yes. Yay,
So
that extra dice.
yes, yay, that extra dice indeed. So yeah, you can see him sort of like look very greedily at your sort of notepad. And then you just see he has a little hand, a horrible, slimy little hand that sort of goes over and like flicks it shut and then pulls it towards him. He goes, well, obviously you didn't hear it from me, but he sort of goes to the back of the room and there's like what would be like the Edwardian version of a filing cabinet. I don't know what that is. It's probably just a desk drawer rather
Yeah,
than like a
most
metal
likely.
cabinet now that I think about it. Um, uh,
Bureau.
oh, yes, exactly. Pulls through and pulls out a big sort of file of paper. And he motions you to sit down and he sort of spreads out the information he has on the house. And a lot of it you have seen before, this idea that both Edward and Kitty Danville moved into the area about 6 years ago and had lived quite quietly. There'd been no sort of little bits of mentions, maybe a photograph here or there of them together as part of a bigger group, like a summer fete and charity auction in one of the gardens, etc. Um, you can see for because this is probably the first time you've seen a picture of Kitty
Oh, yeah.
Danville. She's very thin and a bit all angles. She looks very, very pale. She's got like a big hat on in one of them, where you can't really see much of her face. She sort of like is down a little bit. You can see like wisps of like strawberry blonde hair peeking out from under a cap, wearing quite a delightful, sort of very tasteful modern dress with her sort of parasol as well in one of the summer photos. This sort of, again, one of those photos that would have taken ages to actually take a picture of. So it would make sense that maybe they would be covered a little bit.
Not enough protein, Joan.
Not enough
Right?
protein
Not
at all.
enough
I
protein.
swear to God, if those eggs come back as like a weapon at the end, well,
Uh, Sally
well,
is carrying them, so you never know.
exactly. So the one thing you do find, which is probably is of interest to you, is the obituary
Mm.
for Edward.
I was
Um,
literally going to ask if you had
see,
anything about the death.
was you've got it. So uh, it's quite short, but it describes that his death was sudden. But it doesn't mention anything suspicious. Gives his age about 52, and you know from previous investigations yourself that it's not uncommon for men to die of that around that age. It's certainly ones that have like, you know, a nice lifestyle, rich food diet, maybe a lack of exercise. He didn't seem like particularly like big or unhealthy per se, but probably a very rich lifestyle. It doesn't, they don't live into their 80s currently, but also overworked as well, perhaps. Um, and it just says died suddenly, but at home, leaving behind his wife Kitty Danville. And that's kind of it. There's no other information about it.
Not, nothing about where from Scotland she came from.
And that's the
Mm,
interesting thing. In all the stuff you find out, like there's mentions of like came from Scotland, but nowhere exactly where
where?
they came from.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. She looks at him. You have done, she's now trying to smooth it over. You have done excellent information
I mean,
gathering work.
well, I mean, I just had them here. I thank you. Uh, Sort of
I
like stares at you.
Yeah, I will. I might be back.
What?
Uh, yes.
What? Why would you need to be back?
That's all right.
No,
Okay.
well,
Thank you. And
no,
then she gets up.
yeah, no.
Welcome.
Yeah, he sort of is dumbfounded by your sort of confidence, and you
Yeah.
just sort of stride out. Like, he gets a sense that he's had a bit of a poor deal as he looks at the notebook. I think I like the idea that this is a trick you maybe always do, Joan, and you write the pertinent information at the top, and then there's lots of scribbles and
Yeah.
like
There's like
doodles
really not
afterwards.
much anything else under that. Yeah.
Yeah, and he's
And
like,
this is why I have
ah,
so much notebooks under tables.
yeah, exactly. They're all fake ones. Let's move over then to Miss Blythe. Miss Blythe, I believe you're heading towards our favourite place, which is the police station.
I am.
Mhm.
And I think I'm trying to decide if I want them to maybe underestimate me
Mm-hmm.
a little bit. So I think when I'm coming in, I like have a little pin or something that's like for the Wonder Weekly news that maybe I like put on and like maybe kind of like try to look like I'm already wearing bloomers. I already have like my hair is kind of all over the place. So I kind of like play that up a little bit. So maybe they'll just think I'm a kook and maybe accidentally like say something that they wouldn't normally say.
I try so hard.
Yeah.
I take the clips out
Yeah,
and
yeah.
put them in my
Hair
pocket.
falls down. Yeah, absolutely. I think again, this is just a suggestion, Bitty. Maybe you let your dog somewhere safely, but you could go in try to report a missing dog, perhaps, or have them cause a distraction. Up to you, though.
Yeah. That
I feel
actually
like
is a good idea.
it's
I
just because
think
you have a dog. I want you to use the dog. I think
yeah,
everyone in the chat's like
yeah,
use the dog. So
yeah. Use the dog.
Yeah.
No, I
I
actually think that's a good idea
Mhm.
because I think I'm not gonna have the dog someplace else. I'm gonna be carrying him
Mm.
as I come in. And I'm gonna be carrying him like kind of
Yeah, protective.
protectively, I think.
Mm.
Yeah. And when I come in, I'm going to just kind of like be all like you know, like when someone comes into a place and you're like, they have nothing in their life together. Like someone walks
You
in the
bring
door
that
and you're
energy.
just, yeah, it's just like, this is already way too much for me right now. So I just go into the police station and I'm immediately like, would I be able to speak with someone, please? I'm desperately needing to speak with someone right away. Just
Yeah, so
kind of like looking
yeah,
around.
you're looking around to just this like very tiny room. Yeah, so you know which is the police station because it's quite small. It's well appointed building and it has these sort of blue lamps on either side that say police. So you're instantly like this is the right place. You get you and your dog ready to go. Um, and yeah, you burst in doing your Oscar-winning moment essentially. Uh, and an older gentleman, roughly about mid-50s, with a big handlebar mustache, greying salt and pepper sort of beard, looks up at you. You can see there's a name tag. I assume all policemen have that says Sergeant G. Hall on it, and he's like, "Hello, hello, hello. You need to speak to a member of the constabulary. Is that right, young woman?"
Yes, yes. It's just that I have my dog Ernest here, and it's just that. Oh, all right. Well, I'm a reporter, of course, and I've heard these stories lately about some kind of wild animal that's been running around. I'm horribly worried about my dog, and I just wanted to know if there's been any reports that you've heard of people having been bitten by this wild beast that's been running around.
Oh, I'm sorry. What wild beast is on a Hampstead Heath? I have not had any reports of that. And you say you're a journalist for, and it's clocks the badge. Goes, oh, I see, I see, I see. This is some sort of game to you, young lady. You come in here and to a place of authority. You come here to disturb the peace that we are protecting with your little fantasy tales of what fishmen, wolf women, Hampstead children.
I assure you, I do nothing of the sort, and I'm here just as my right, just as anyone else can be, to inquire about the goings on of Hampstead and of. I swear I've heard about people being bitten recently.
Bitten. Make for me a. What are you trying to do? I feel like.
What am I trying to
What are
do?
you trying to do? It's definitely an empathy thing.
I
You're trying to.
think
Are you trying to get
manipulation.
information?
Yeah,
Hmm.
so my reasoning behind this is because I had the clue about the bites, and so I'm just
Yes.
trying to see if there's, like, anything of, like, people having been attacked or
Interesting.
things like that. I'll
So you
ask about missing people
so
too,
you
but,
are you using your advantage at this point then?
I think I'd like to. Yeah, it makes
Mhm.
sense too.
Absolutely, of course you can. So yeah, so you can add a +2 to this roll. It is going to be. I'm just having a check of it. I think this is an empathy inspiration because you're trying to find more
Okay,
clues to this way. So
alright,
yeah,
that
so
works for me.
use that as empathy plus your inspiration plus the +2 dice to the pool. He's going to do an opposed check to you because he's trying to suss out what this person is
Mhm.
doing. He's not as bright as the Mr. Blake is. He's only got 3 dice to this.
Oh, okay. I think I have 10 for this.
Wow.
Wow.
Yes.
It's acting.
Well, because yeah,
Take your time. You don't have to roll them
inspiration
all
is
at
my
once. You can
thing.
always roll
Yeah, I'll be
5 and
like
then another
5 for
5.
5. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
I know
Okay,
it's not as
there's one
fun.
success in the first batch.
Okay,
2 successes. Okay.
great. He got 1 success, so it would have cancelled out. Your sort of desperate sort of plea and like you're very earnest, and literally your dog Ernest is also like sweet eyes as well. He sort of goes, shuts his book, and he goes, "Look, take a seat. I'll go find the records and see if anyone has been bitten." He sort of like looks at you like under the glasses, and he sort of it comes round. I guess in any kind of crisis, when we see someone that's very flustered and upset, the British response and certainly the police response is in this situation is to make tea, which probably makes you even more uh, frustrated and a bit more, again, that frightened stuff as well. You're really playing into that sort of
I'm so
predicament.
scared of this tea.
One thing I would say, 'cause I've forgotten about it, but just remember, like with your condition, you do -1 to your dice
Oh,
pool.
that's
Don't
right.
worry,
I
don't worry.
forgot.
I'm not going to take that success away from you because I think that, yeah, it's fine. I think you were playing into the moment, and also you used your advantage as well. Just remember that for future. Um, he sits down with you with this horrible, like I think uh, it's just breakfast tea, and there's lots of milk in it.
Oh.
There's a couple of biscuits as well that have just been put there, and he goes, "Look, Miss, we've not had any biting creatures or anything like this. This has not anything to do with those well the Hampstead group." As noted in my little book, there's nothing to do with the artists. So they've not been telling scary stories to you.
Well, now that I think of it, perhaps it was an artist that I heard from, but I don't see how that should make any kind of difference.
We've been having trouble with them these last couple of weeks, months. They all get up to lots of silly stuff. You can see he sort of scratches his head, and like I was almost like thinking about something. And he sort of goes, I mean, Miss, you don't need to worry. Anytime they're out of order, we go and we take them from the house if they cause any ruckus. So they spend the night here, and then they see sense. So you've nothing to fear from that house or from any of the residents therein.
Now, this is something quite interesting because I've heard that all this ruckus started just a few years ago. There was never any kind of ruckus or problems with that house before now.
No, unfortunately, it's just you know how these things happen. Change of ownership. Miss Danville is she's a. I think she last time she came in, she described herself as a proper patron of the arts and really wants to foster the future for what was it? It was some playwright that was in here last time. Some jokester talking about the importance of and like, over my head really. But yeah. I mean, have you met Miss Danville? She's quite the character.
I haven't made her acquaintance, I'm afraid. And
Mm.
now that you say this, I'm just wondering what poor Mr. Danville must have been like. Did you ever meet him?
Oh, no, but no, I did not. He was not the sort of person to be frequenting the cells, if you get my meaning, Miss. No, no, no. In fact, not even Miss Danville did. It's only when she comes to pay out the bail for the various, or anyone that we happen to pick up on our rounds. I think she was last in about a week ago or so. After a strange fellow, he was. Oh, I accosted. Well, I didn't accost him, but I brought to bring him in because he had stolen a bicycle, and then I had to charge him again because he stole my helmet.
And what was the name of this young man
Oh,
that she came to bail out? Do you remember?
uh, they all look the same to me. One artist as another's poet, etc.
Oh, I'm just interested. A friend of mine said their bike went missing, so I thought maybe you'd caught the rascal.
Does your friend live in Newfound House?
Mm.
No.
No,
Well
just
then.
in the neighborhood.
Oh well. I'd be very remiss if that person's bike was the person. It was one of our own bicycles. The individual in question was. They were saying that they had to get away. They said something was wrong at the house. Lots of caterwauling. So we had half the neighbours up in arms. It was quite the sight. And then they took my helmet. They said, "You have to lock me up now." And I was like, "Fine." And it would have
Oh,
all been
you say
fine. Hmm?
they had to get away from the house, and then Miss Danville came and got him and took him back?
Yeah, they said there'd been a misunderstanding of some sort. I'll see if I can find the police report. If it's that. I mean, this is related to some inquiry about a creature that bites. You can see his eyes narrowing slightly. You might need to give him something if he's going to give you the police
Yeah.
report.
I think I say, well, now it's just my journalistic interest taken over. Now that I'm here and you've laid my fears to rest about the biting.
Oh, let's do an empathy manipulation check because what on earth is
Right.
that? He's also going to do an opposed check. It's not great.
And I
Don't
will
forget
remember
to
to take one off. Yeah.
exactly. Thank you very much.
Still not bad for me though. One success.
One success. Uh, I also got one success, but it cancels out. I'm always that sort of person that just cancels out, and so whoever meets it beats it, sort of thing. So, yes, he goes, okay. Let me see, and he sort of goes back and again another similar wooden desk area. Sort of goes through and brings out a police report, and you can tell it's done in a much again. You've seen, sort of, I think maybe Joan's goddaughter's letter. It was a very nice, sort of beautiful, like not flowing script, but enough. This one's a bit more scratchy, a bit more sort of down to earth. You can tell it's in his hand. But the police report, so it sort of says, and you'll forgive me, sort of, it's a bit first person. So, coming round the corner into that high street, I observed a young man riding a bicycle in the direction of the station. He appeared drunk and inevitably had difficulty controlling the machine, falling off it 3 times as I approached him. He did not seem to hear my challenge to stop and was unable to account for the ownership of the bicycle, saying at first that he had borrowed it from a friend, and then when unable to give the name of this friend, he then found it leaning against the wall. The number plate on the bicycle indicated that it belonged to a police officer. When I asked where he was going, he replied that he had to leave Hampstead immediately because his life was in danger. He declined to name the person who threatened him, saying that only that she will find me. He repeated this several times, growing more agitated as he did so. I charged him that he was drunk, in charge of a transport, piece of transport, and I suspected that he had stolen it. And I told him that he would spend the night in the cells of Hampstead police station and would be questioned in the morning when he was sober. He seemed calmer after this and offered no resistance, although he asked if the cells were secure enough to keep him safe at night. Once at the police station, the young man identified himself as Martin Beddoes and gave his occupation as poet and his address as Newthorne House, Gladstone Place, Hampstead. Oh, I've lost someone there, but I will carry on going for the moment. Owing to his condition, he was unable to give any further information. But the Newford House is well known to local police as a residence occupied by a colony of artistic persons of various kinds, the subject of regular complaints by its neighbours. The following morning, he received a visit from Mrs. Danville of Newfound House, where he had been staying. He seemed afraid at first, but was calmer after the two had spoken together for a few minutes. Mrs. Danville said that the bicycle actually belonged to one of the other guests staying there, um, and uh, and to pay the fines, and had offered to pay the fines to the owners and any damages. I was quite confused at this, but then looking at the bicycle again, it did seem to not be one of the police station. Mr. Beddoes left with her apparently of his own accord, and the matter is now considered closed. So that is what you get in that information.
Yeah, I think I take some like shorthand notes in my book of the information. And when did this happen?
About a
days
week
ago?
or so ago, yes.
A week or so ago. Take note of that. And I think just kind of say like, well, Sergeant, thank you so much for calming me down. I heard something about some type of creatures running wild, and I admit that I let my emotions take over and I came running here, but I'm so glad you were able to help me.
No problem, Miss. You will keep this information to yourself. Do you know this? And points to this of the name, this unruly character.
I'm afraid I don't. I've never heard of him before.
Very well, very well. So, well, be careful. I wouldn't. There are some interesting individuals there at the newfound house, and I would be, well, and sort of leans in close and goes, I would be remiss if one of the star journalists of the Weekly Wonder News was to fall into perilous hands, and sort of winks a little bit. And you can see underneath all his papers is actually a copy of a recent a recent one.
Yeah,
I love it for you. I love it for Sally.
I give him a wink. I maybe I sign the paper without even
You
him
signed the
asking. I
paper.
just
Okay.
think,
I'm gonna give you and it's not something invasive. You have a contact with Sergeant Gerald Hall of the Hampstead police station. In brackets, fan. So
he's so incompetent. I don't want this kind of fan. But what can I do?
yeah, he indicates that he will also look out for any creatures or any reports of creatures that bite, and
Yes.
pass it along to you at any forwarding address. Okay.
Yeah. Then I'm out of there.
So excuse me. So you all meet back up, obviously. When Sally rejoins the call, then they'll be here as well. But everyone gives their information about what you have discovered. So just to quickly recap, that Miss Kitty Danville has been seen in public, but there was quite a scandal a couple of years ago from when she refused to sit next to what seemed to be the Bishop of Suffolk, complaining of headaches and being taken ill, has then not been seen in public since then. There's been no information necessarily about any creatures that bite, but you have heard about artists causing a ruckus, often being drunk, but then Miss Danville being able to pay their bail and bringing them back to the house, including this particular incident recently, which seems to include someone called Martin Beddoes, who seems to match the description that Amelia has given you. On top of that, you also got the obituary from the newspaper, the Gazette, saying that Edward had passed away suddenly, but didn't seem to be unusual circumstances.
I would say this is this all the information makes it that we should just go and visit the house.
Mm-hmm.
I'm keen to see Miss Danford, yes?
Danville, yes, it's
Danville, sorry.
newfound house, Miss Danville.
Miss
Yeah.
Danville, yes, Miss Danville. Kitty, the description of her just feels off to me. From all the things I've been through, I'm like, her not being outside, people, you're saying people are running away from the house and then being
Hmm.
taken back. Everything is just not enough, but just it feels icky, and we should we should just
You categorized it under the category ick, which I
yes.
love. One thing,
I have
what
a
I was just going to say,
question.
oh, I'll come to the question in a second. I was going to say, Joan, you have a talent called elementary, which you
Yes.
might be of thing here. So I wondered if you would like to use it right now. It's up to you.
um let's see. Yeah, I would, because it's the we're not fully aware of all the stuff, but there's
Hmm.
just the, like you said, the clues are just giving that there's something amiss.
Hmm.
Oh,
Yeah, so with elementary, so your talent is that for once per session, you can ask the game master to explain how the clues connect to each other. So, is there anything specific? I'll give this over to you. Is there anything specific you're not entirely sure about with the clues you've been given so far?
yes. I am the sudden, even though, like, the sudden death of her spouse,
Hmm.
that makes me, you know, a bit like, there's nothing, no information, and that, to me, no information from about a rich person dying is
Mm.
seems iffy. It doesn't match up. People, when rich people die, there's big obituaries, stories about their lives.
Hmm.
Even though they moved from Scotland, there's nothing, no background, no
Yeah.
nothing, and you're like, these people are, or into something terrible, or
Hmm.
not
It's
people.
Yes. So you're putting the clues together in the sense of, okay, so they've come from mysterious circumstances with very little detail to them. There are pictures of them, or at least the pictures of Kitty in some respect. Sudden death. Again, probably Betty has talked a bit about the visions that she's
Yeah,
got from the other side about this idea of teeth. Um, there is a moment that you think about, like, what kind of creatures it could be,
yeah,
or could be have an influence in, right? First thing that comes to mind, anything that has got any kind of charm or ways to sort of put things under its spell. You think of things and that have teeth. Well, the sort of initial thing, the gut feeling, which maybe was a bit of a sinking feeling, is maybe vampires, but they're unusual to be acting so openly in
yes,
places like this, and especially if they're seen in the sun. So that kind of crosses that one out. Um, you think back to maybe I'm just going to see what the notes say. You think maybe the discussion about. Let me try and find that note I had for myself. Maybe you think of maybe a anything to do with maybe artists and muses, perhaps any creatures like that. Thinking of like maybe landers, perhaps, or even let's see what that word is. Lianas, which are like creatures that feed off creativity and
yeah,
like
like
gorgeous,
music. Yeah,
exactly like music, etc. But from what you've heard of and what you kind of deduce from these clues, is that artists is kind of like a thrown around term. You've not seen any of this artwork, you've not heard any of this music. It's not on the walls and painted. It's not on the walls of these houses. So you
mhm,
think if anything, it's a bit of a debauched place. So maybe not that either. And then you finally come to that clue about something that Bitty said about sort of a tale of three goats, the billy goat's gruff going over the bridge. And that idea that the final goat goes and eats the troll under the bridge.
mhm.
Something about that you focus on a little bit. You can't quite think what kind of Vaesen that why would it fit there, but something about goat like features sits with you.
The throw under the bridge. Yeah. So I'm like I take the pieces. I'm rummaging through my thoughts of facings that bite, facings that are vampiric in sense,
Hmm.
charm basins, and bouncing off Sally. Like, what have do you have any thoughts about these types of creatures? Uh, just trying to pinpoint something that makes sense to us in the role of nonsensicalness.
Yeah. I mean, you think about, like, again, that idea of maybe not being able to stand religious conversation
Yeah.
if she's been sat next to a bishop, certainly one of the Bishop of Suffolk. Not that either of you have had any conversations with that, but anything from Suffolk is pretty boring. And that's as
Yeah.
someone who lives in London just now, it's pretty dull. Um, you so it would make sense that there definitely is some sort of Fae relation there, because quite a lot of Faes don't like talk of religion, and certainly being contacted or anything like that you're aware of. But it hasn't really, it's narrowed it down a little bit, but you've only ruled out what it probably can't be
Can't
and not what
be.
it
But
is. Yeah.
um,
What's Bitty thinking in all this as a discussion as you slowly make your way towards Newfound House?
Yeah, so have I don't know if people have explicitly said this. Are the artists mostly men? Is it mostly men or all men and then just Kitty as the woman there, or is it just men that we've been hearing about?
It hasn't been explicitly described per se, but as you get closer to the house, you see, like, the curtains and drapes are drawn, windows are open, and there's a smell of various cigarettes and gentle sort of perfumed, etc. It's about early afternoon, and you can hear the sounds of music being played on, like, an old gramophone, and you can hear general sort of, like, not shouting but sort of guffaws happening. They sound very male in opinion, so it would not surprise you, unfortunate as it might be, that a lot of the membership to this particular colony is maybe male only.
mm,
But yes, I would go with that gut instinct of, like, if it's all male, that Kitty might be the only femme presenting person there.
yes, and that it could be that charm type of situation
Mm.
where she's charming these artists.
You
For yeah,
implied earlier, Fiona, that they might not be artists. They might
yeah,
just be debauched.
yeah,
There might be a
artists
lot of
and
debauchery.
Look,
artists in the art way where they're like doing,
look, I'm just saying, as someone who is an artist, people go around saying, "Oh, well, I'm an artist," and you go, "What do you do?" And you go, "Well, I think about doing these amazing things." And you're like, "Yeah, do you actually do them?" "Oh, no, I will do." That's the kind of artist I am talking about. Those sort of creatives who have big ideas, and but they spend most of their time, let's say, drinking said ideas or smoking said ideas and having big plans. That is when I use the term artist, and whenever the like the household staff talking to Sally, or whenever the police was talking to you, Bitty, or even Roland talking to you, Joan, um, there's definitely a bit of, like, artists rather than artists. Um,
Yeah.
so you get the sense of what they're talking about.
So
Self-proclaimed artists.
you're not
Yeah.
implying that this is a sex cult, which is where my mind was going.
At this point, if
Ah,
this was a
yeah.
different stream that's not PG, there's a curtain. The curtain is shut, but maybe there's, like, a sexy silhouette, but it's not for
Okay,
this
okay.
stream. No, I would
Okay.
say that is off the table. But in another lifetime, it could have been. Not for this one, though.
I'm thinking on something because they want they want to get away, so that's what's sticking with me. Like the cop, the policeman, the officer said this person is specifically saying, arrest me. They're doing everything to get arrested to get away from
Mhm,
the house. So
mhm.
I'm gathering that there's something in that house that is or harming them because of the bites and the stuff we're hearing,
Mm-hmm,
or
mm-hmm.
is how do you say draining them of their artistic forces.
Mm-hmm.
You
Mm-hmm.
wanna call it that. So yeah, Joan is just like making the notes, trying to draw up a Vaesen
Mm-hmm.
that is in that particular area. Can
Mm-hmm.
I then roll maybe to see if I can
Sure. Let's get you to do some rolling. Absolutely. Let's.
pull out a Vaesen?
It's like it's yeah, because you might be trying to categorize it, perhaps.
Yes.
Like if you've not come across it yourself, because this is the thing. Sometimes there's not necessarily one big book of every Vaesen that's ever
Yeah,
existed.
but like
It's for you what
yeah.
you're trying to write down. Absolutely, I think this is a logic learning. I
All
think
right. So my logic is my highest. I think. Let's see. It's a four. Haha, yes.
nice.
Nice. And a learning is a two. So two extra
6.
dice. Six.
I would also say, if Bitty would like to help with this, you would get a +1. But Bitty has to describe what is to help. And I would say if you do fail, any consequence of it would go on to Bitty as well. So I'll just offer that. Bitty, if you'd like to help, what is it that you could help with in terms of trying to categorize what this Vaesen is?
Yeah, maybe going through photos that I've taken to kind of like put
Hmm.
like a face to the name, so to speak. So just kind of like going through
Hmm.
yeah, any photos that I have and being like, "Oh, could it be something like this? Could it be something like this?"
Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot. Okay, so yeah, you get so with that logic learning, Joan, you also get a +1, another
Okay.
dice to it as
A
well,
plus
thanks to
one.
Bitty.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oof, it's been a while since I rolled these many dice in one.
Yeah.
Let's go, dice gods. And dice gods said we got one success.
Okay. You succeed. You succeed.
One
Um,
success.
you you with Bitty's help, you remember maybe a couple of months ago, somebody else came to you. It was part of a different mystery, and you were able to help, but it was more of a it was their colleague essentially, some mystery to do with the Welsh miners and something to do with red caps and various boggarts and stuff like that. Easily enough sorted, like
Yeah.
no big deal. A friend of theirs that come down was a Scottishman. Uh, didn't speak too much, a bit gruff in places. Very well, not well known, but very. It sort of signalled their heritage because they had bright ginger red hair and a beard. And you had overheard them discussing. Uh, you now put it together a little bit that they this person had gone to visit newfound house. Actually, he'd been talking about meeting up with some artist friends in London. He was coming to see the scene, and he was talking as you sort of entered the room how he was very disappointed with what he saw and how awful this place, newfound house, was. But it was very hard to actually understand because the Scottish accent was so thick
Mm.
and so hard to penetrate. That's why you had sort of your friend to sort of translate a little bit afterwards because it was curious. The person that was sort of indicating name was angry and cross, and apparently there was a big confrontation at this dinner where the man had stood up and pointed deliberately at Kitty and said the word glass stick. Glass stick. And that kind of resonates with you both. Glass stick. It's some sort of like immortal being.
Mm. Uh, I think in the vein of a Dorian Gray type situation.
Possibly, possibly. Again, you didn't really think of it too much because it was kind of not related to the mystery you were interested in. But the way this gentleman from Scotland had reacted,
It was
you s-
very
it
visceral.
was,
Yeah.
it was, yeah, exactly. And then maybe after this mission, regardless of how it succeeds or not, maybe you start to contact any contacts you have in the Scottish Order
Mhm.
to see if you can actually get a good category of what goes down here, because it's clearly some sort of Scottish Vaesen of some sort. Glass stig. You get to the door after your discussions, and I think at this point Sally sort of takes a moment and goes, I'll stay back and just watch, and maybe we'll come from another exit as well. So she's sort of, for the sake of this, doing background animations, but ready to jump in and
when
save the
needed.
day as well. So she sort of pulls back and is hidden from view as you ring the doorbell. You can hear a sort of a loud ding, and the music doesn't really din, doesn't change at all. There's still a few like shouts of guffaws of laughter and smoke. Uh, Nothing happens for several minutes, and then you hear a gentle sort of like footsteps, and the door opens to a woman. So very strawberry blonde hair, quite tall, thin, black outfit on, long skirts. Her hands with gloves on, uh, various sort of like a tight collar on, very grey blue eyes. Her skin itself looking very pale. Like the way she's sort of in, she has stepped back a little bit, but you can see her in the sort of the gloom and the smoke. Ah,
Before we go ahead, can I say that ask if I can say I'm like vigilant, like already in the idea
mm.
that I came there knowing that it might be dangerous, so I'm at higher vigilance than
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. You are both. Maybe you weren't prepared for Kitty Danville to open the door,
yeah, exactly.
but
That's the shocking part, like that she
yeah.
opens
So
the
yeah,
door.
so you're both there. She goes, I was expecting you. I heard my name being thrown around town. What can I do for you?
Well, you've heard your name being thrown around. I'm like,
Oh, you've got the twitching
yeah,
curtain.
the little,
She waves
uh,
actually at various houses. You turn, you don't see anything, but you suspect that there's quite a few eyes on this
mm,
place.
yes, yes. I see you have eyes and ears all over town.
Yeah, one does what one most. Can I help you to?
I am looking for a person that
Oh,
most likely had frequented or stayed here a while back, and I'm, you know, through family have been asked to see if they're still around because people are worried, and I'm
oh,
like, there's grown people. Why are you worried? But
hmm,
out of goodness of family, I decided to just step by and
how noble of you.
have an ask.
Hmm. A missing person. Oh, that is such a terrible thing. Well, we don't really tend to have a missing people here. The more people find their way here, stay as long as they need to, and then when they need to go, they just go.
Huh. Yes, I see. I see. It's I don't know if you maybe you might remember him. I think his name was Martin, right? The
Martin, yeah, you
yeah,
have his photo
na-
as well.
na- Martin, and then I like flashly like pull out really elegantly like pull out the photo like it's like nonchalantly. You know,
Hmm.
he looks like this.
Oh, Marty. Hmm. Oh, you must come in then. And she sort of slowly sort of backs away from the door and indicates for you to follow her through the house.
Um, can I sense any like from my sight any like is the hairs standing behind my neck? You know?
I
Eh,
think,
eh,
yes, you can sense something's not great,
yeah,
but you can't sense what. I'm not going to make you roll for it just because of for time and experience sake, but you can sense that it is dangerous to go in just now.
all right. I will look at Sally and just nod the nod of be. watch your back. And then
Yeah.
I will, because I am, not afraid of a challenge, will like slowly step in.
Sure. All right.
And
Bitty, do you follow?
Yes, I do.
All right. Just for Sally's sake, so what we did, they had a bit of a discussion, and both Joan and Bitty have gone ahead into the house, have met what seems the erstwhile Kitty Danville. You, for plot reasons, have stayed back a little bit to see if there's another entrance as well. I've described this place as a very beautiful sort of like stonework building. You can see that there's the sounds of like a gramophone being played at quite a high volume, various guffaws of male presenting individuals getting up for the day, even though it is well past noon, and the smell of smoke, and definitely a bit of a pong of like alcohol, maybe a little bit of vomit in the garden that you're stood in just now. Um,
Lovely.
Lovely indeed. I need you, particularly Sally, to make for me a. I'm going to get it wrong now, but I think it's a logic observation. Check if you've got observation on there.
Mm-hmm. We've
Yes,
got.
make that for me.
Yep.
And remember, because you've got a condition
Oh
as well,
yeah,
you take.
-1.
There you go.
That's still one success.
Nice, nice. As you're looking around the garden, you notice something quite odd. Clearly, at one point, there's a wall, like a walled garden stuff, but clearly it used to be a lot higher. And you realise that looking at the other houses along the street and after your conversations with the various house staff, that there used to be like an iron fence, like an iron spikes around this wall. You can actually see the plugs where they used to go into this spot. Um, they don't seem to be here at all anymore. All the iron in the fence, in the brick wall, has been taken out.
So I don't know whether you think Sally needs to roll for this. Sakaya is suspicious because speaking to the servant who mentioned that Kitty didn't like being near to the bishop, Sally might be, with one with the sight, might be thinking suspicious things. And now removing the iron, I think by this point she has grave doubts about Kitty Danville.
Absolutely. And yeah, you would not need to roll for this at all. The conversation, again, appreciate technical difficulties aside, that definitely some sort of fey creature of some sort. There was questions of it being a vampire, but then there was pictures of this person in daylight. And then there was questions of various like muses of creativity, like sucking potential, but then what could that mean? There's no sort of thing for it. And then finally there was this discussion of a chance encounter with a Scottish individual for a previous mystery, which you would have been part for, who had a chance encounter with Kitty and was sort of explaining it to their friend, but because their dialect, their accent was so thick, it was very hard to get the words out. But a word called glassdig came out quite strongly, which maybe is a categorization of a particular Vaesen. I would like to know, because I appreciate time is getting away from us, what is Sally going to do? The door is shut to the main house, but that doesn't mean there aren't other ways to get in. But I just want to know what you're planning to do, because your two erstwhile companions have literally walked into the lair of a fae.
So did they go through the front door?
Mhm.
And I'm around the back.
You can be if you want. You
Oh.
basically you stood back to watch them disappear in, but you don't think you were spotted in the garden.
I'm not comfortable with having Ms. Blythe out of my sight, now knowing what I'm very suspicious of. So I may reach into my bag, take out a little derringer,
Mm,
check that it's loaded, and hurry in after them.
okay. You are taken, Bitty and Joan, to a room upstairs. You pass through several like big sort of parlors, big sort of corridors and stuff. There are hundreds of young men just lying about, like in
lazing about.
Like young
lazing
men
about,
do.
like men do. As you look, none of them are like they're all sleeping over like a big hangover essentially. Some of them are like groaning, a bit prone. There's definitely one person who definitely has vomited down their beautiful suit front. Um, and you can see that the like there's there's definitely no easels to be seen
Yeah,
anywhere.
no
None of that.
practical art
No,
stuff.
you can again smell that smell of smoke and various other drug paraphernalia, which we can't mention on stream. They're just everywhere, but and they cluster up, and you can see Kitty just gently sort of like steps over them. She goes, "Oh, sorry for the mess. We had a bit of a celebration,
Mm.
please." But I would like both Joan and Bitty to make a roll for me. It will be an observation roll, so a logic observation for me, please.
So 4 and then a 1.
And don't forget, if you've got a condition, you -1 from your dice pool.
Yes. As I'm kind of looking to see if anyone looks harmed other than like the obvious
Good to know.
vomiting stuff, but like yeah,
Absolutely. That's great. Good to know.
bites, scars,
Mhm.
bruises, anything that looks.
That's good. That's all right. I'll keep that in mind.
One success for me.
One success for you.
I have no success, so I'm gonna push.
You're gonna push the roll. Fantastic.
Yeah.
Okay, so this you don't get a condition just yet. You'll get one afterwards. It will be a mental condition. Okay, before you roll, what kind of condition would you? Which one of the conditions would you take? Uh, we've got. I can read them out for you. We have. You got angry, frightened, or hopeless. You would get this after you roll.
I will think angry. That
Mm,
Constance will that little inkling of she has no control will trigger a little bit of anger,
mhm.
feeling
Nice.
cornered type of situation.
Nice. All right. Reroll. Reroll all dice that don't show a six.
Like, come on, we can do this. We rolled almost the same thing.
Almost though.
Yeah, yeah. 3 5s and 2 3s. Yeah, I had a 3 5s and a 3 and a 4.
Oh, no successes though.
No successes.
Oh, so
That
unfortunate.
hurts.
No, no, no. So yeah, you're busily looking at the individuals, and you don't see them. None of them seem physically hurt or injured in any way. They do see, they seem almost like what's the word? Dazed, confused. A couple of them look up, and you can see there's definitely effects of something else that has happened. You pass by a bedroom, you can see those two sort of gentlemen that are literally sprawled on their backs looking at the ceiling, like trying to focus on something, and you think something has hurt them in the sense of like has just constantly charmed them over and over again to the point that they cannot move, they are incapacitated, or uh, and they can heal, but you're angry at the fact this has happened. That these these poor men have just come in here pretending to be artists and oh no, consequences. But at the same time, they didn't deserve this. This could have happened to anyone. This could have happened to one of your colleagues. This could have
Yeah.
happened to any of the kids that you saw earlier, some of the irregulars. But Bitty, oh Bitty, you're staring at the back of Kitty's head and sort of the way she's sort of leading it and the way she sort of drapes herself up a stairway. And as she steps over yet another individual on the stairs, you can. It's just for a moment, but you swear that one of her legs, as she moves, and you realize now she's been moving at a quite a slow but deliberate pace, um, an outline of a hoof, the way the leg sort of bends back, very reminiscent of a goat's leg. And unfortunately, we have run out of time. So we'll leave it on that cliffhanger. Maybe go Hordes of Tales will invite us back for a part two at some other point, but we will leave it there, this cliffhanger, as two of our investigators are in the house, and one of them is about to break in and cause a
Ooh.
scene with their revolver. But thank you so much. Well done, my investigators.
Yeah.
Incredible stuff. Hopefully that was enjoyable for
Me write
both
down that
yourselves.
hoof thing.
Hoof thing,
Just
yep. Spooky hoof. You can put there. But thank you so much. Let me get to my notes for the admin. So, if you've enjoyed watching this game of Vaesen and want to try it out for yourself, we're going to drop a link into the chat so where you can get it. A massive thank you, as always, to Free League for sponsoring this one shot and all the streams and panels that are happening this month as part of the Hoard of Tales Women in Gaming event. Hoard of Tales, as I said earlier, they're proud to support Women for Women International, which is a non-profit organisation that helps it aims to help women who are disproportionately affected by the conflicts and crises around the world. So again, if you see that link in chat, please go and give it a look. And if you're able to donate, please consider doing so. We would very much appreciate it. And we're going to go around once again and just give a little outros where we can find more of our wonderful cast's work. With the socials and all that sort of thing. We're going to go around in the same order that we did before. So let's start with our wonderful, amazing private detective, Joan Constance, aka Melissa. Please take it away, my friend.
Hi, I'm Melissa, and you can find me on all socials as Art Rogue Mel. Just type that up in Instagram. I think I'm still on the place formerly known as Twitter. And yes, just come check us out and check out my anime podcast from Animes Most Wanted. So glad to have been here. It's been fun, and I can't wait to hopefully be invited to finish off the next
Fingers crossed,
episode.
eh?
Yes.
Thank you so much. Next, we have our wonderful, amazing servant, Sally Hargreaves, aka Sakaya. Please, Sakaya.
Thank you, Fiona. Hello, I am Sakaya. You can currently find me pretty much only on Discord and Blue Sky, and as Sakaya, I've been making actual play podcasts since about 2016. I have part of a brand new production called The Transmissions, which is coming out on the 26th of March. We will be releasing Liminal Podcast every Tuesday and every Tuesday evening streaming a Dragon Age on Twitch.
Ooh,
So join us there
nice.
for that.
Fantastic, thank you very much. And then last but by no means least, our wonderful journalist of the, I keep saying weekly wonderful news or wonderful weekly news. It's one of those things. Our
Yeah,
wonderful,
something.
something like that. It's not important, clearly. Oh, it definitely is. Bitty Blythe, aka Taylor. Taylor, take it away, my friend.
Hi, yes. Before I say place you can find me and things like that, thank you so much to Hoard of Tales for having me here, and also Ida for producing. Always
Yeah.
gotta shout out our producer, doing a great job. Place you can find me. I do stream TTRPGs on my own channel, which is twitch.tv/roll for Felicity. I do mostly one shots, and I like to showcase indie games. I actually have a series called Incredibly Indie, where game designers submit their games for me to play one shots of. I have one of those actually this weekend. We're playing a Descended from the Queen game called The Anomaly. It's going to be a lot of fun on
Nice.
Saturday. But everything else, you can just follow me on my socials pretty much everywhere. It's Roll for Felicity, Twitter, Blue Sky, Tumblr, etc., etc., etc. All that stuff is there because I talk about the stuff that I have coming up.
Amazing, thank you so much. And yes, and then it's me. Hello. So when I'm not being a lady that is just, I don't know, uh, taking all the men and I don't know, sucking the life force out of them. You can find me. My name is Fiona. I use she her pronouns, and I am an improviser and podcaster. I have two podcasts. I've got which are RPG related. I've got What Am I Rolling and the DM's Book Club. You can find those wherever you listen to podcasts. But what I like to do at the end is recommend other games that people are like, oh, I like this. What else can I play? As a result, obviously, we're all tabletop RPG folks here. If you like the looks of these Year Zero engines that Free League does, honestly, I cannot highly recommend them enough. But another one that I would recommend looking at is Tales from the Loop, role playing in the 80s that never was. In Tales from
Mm.
the Loop, you play teenagers in the late 1980s solving mysteries connected to the loop, which is this big particle accelerator that just so happens to be outside your hometown. Weird coincidences, right? If you enjoyed stuff like Stranger Things, but you're looking for a more lo-fi setting rather than horror, I appreciate not everyone likes horror. Take a look at Tales from the Loop and the sort of expansion of Things from the Flood, especially if you're looking at their newish UK expansion. They grow up so fast, which is all based in the UK. And this particular scenario is also based in the UK, so I'm a big fan of that sort of thing. So go check that out as well. Hoard of Tales announcements. So if you enjoyed tonight's session, well, buckle up because there's going to be a lot more on the way in the next couple of weeks. We have games such as Corkborg, yes, Candida Obscura, Clean Spirit, the Capybara Keeper, Here There Be
Oh, the
Monsters.
capybara keeper. I'm there
Uh,
for that.
yeah, I know, me too. Apocalypse Keys, Pride and Extreme Prejudice. It's a Grant Howitt one shot. When the End Comes, Allura, and the Fall of Home. We also have a panel which I am hosting from the past, but it'll be in the future. Never mind. Towards the end of the month, called Tropes. So there's plenty of RPG content for you to come and check out. So please come do so. If you want the latest news on what's coming up next on the Hoard of Tales, be sure to follow them on all the social media platforms. As we said, Twitter or X. I'm going to do these quotation marks around everything now that I don't like. Instagram, Blue Sky, of course. Check out YouTube for the VODs of these things. Possibly TikTok ? I am an old person. I see things on Instagram a month later. That's where I get my stuff. Once again, thank you so much to Free League for sponsoring the stream. Thanks to this wonderful cast. And of course, thank you so much to our wonderful producer, Ida, for keeping us safe and keeping us all on the right and narrow. That's all we have for tonight, folks. Thank you so much. And take care out there. And there may be Vaesen around.
Yes,
Bye.
bye.